Yeah, episode 20. Look at that. We're flying through these.
Milestone.
A milestone indeed. Well, I'm surprised that we actually managed to get the episode done this week because you went on holiday without telling me. And then you were like, oh, I'm back on Thursday, which is the day that we usually do the episode. So how was it? Good trip?
Yeah. No, I forget I have these new responsibilities. Yeah, it was really nice. Went to Poland for a bit of skiing, which sounds really posh. But it's like a nearby affordable resort. So just for a few days. It was nice. Like beginner lessons. They serve beer in 1 liter containers there, by the way.
That sounds fun. So did you sustain any knee or leg injuries? Because to be honest, if I'm going to go to Poland, I'm expecting either somebody to attack my legs or to break a leg on the ski slope. You know, it's like
it's basically a given. So one way or another, Poland is going to wreck your legs. No, but my hips are like completely jacked from half from jiu-jitsu and half from just like having, I don't know, whatever, some like mildly shit genetic thing with my hips. But this way I can bend really easily. But this way it's like nearly impossible. And skiing is basically that for the first like 5 hours. And the instructor was like, why, do this. I'm like, yeah, mate, I'm trying.
I'm disabled. I can't.
Yeah. But I got a good guard. Yeah. I don't have that. But anyway.
Well, we're back at it then. Didn't miss too much time. It was only a short trip, luckily. And we have various things to talk about in this episode because we like to do the themed episodes where we talk about sort of one big topic or where we, rank different things. But we do also like to kind of recap things that have been going on in the world of jiu-jitsu. And the last sort of 10 days or so has been quite an interesting and busy period in jiu-jitsu. There's been a lot going on. Some news, some events, some upcoming events, just lots to talk about, right? Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it's a bit like American politics, just loads of stuff happening.
Well, speaking of American politics, one of the first things that we needed to talk about was this news that Gordon Ryan says he is retiring. Now, let's be clear that this is not the first time that Gordon has claimed that he has decided that he will no longer compete. But I do have to say, I think I actually believe him this time. Because, he did this whole kind of weird Conor McGregor style fake retirement announcement a few years ago. And I'm not sure whether he was just having like this weird moment or...
Wasn't he taking mushrooms at the time or something?
Maybe, yeah. Him and Roberto Jimenez together in a hot tub. Yeah, I don't know. But he decided that he's like, oh, I've done everything. There's nothing else for me to do. Peace out. I'm the greatest ever. And nobody believed him. No, everybody was like, you're talking absolute shit, mate. So, but now that he has been very quiet for the last couple of months, and there were a lot of questions about whether he would do ADCC this year, and then he's like, okay, now I'm retired. My body has given up on me. He's a little bit older now. He's around about the 30 mark. So, I kind of feel like there is some truth to this. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like his kind of ego would not allow him to continue in a state that might allow him to lose, basically. I mean, it got to the point where he was just a complete Marmite character. You were either like a massive Gordon Ryan fan and you watched every match because you wanted to see him win, or you absolutely despise the guy and you're desperate to see somebody beat him. It's probably pretty smart to quit before you get beaten because that would change everything. Like he pins his entire reputation and legacy on the kind of nearly spotless record. But what was I going to say? I mean, it seems like his health issues are pretty serious at this point. Like he looks bad, sounds turbo depressed, just doesn't look good. And then he must be under a lot of stress. Like there's so many rumors flying about regarding him. I don't know, like I always found it slightly unbelievable that he's claimed to be on the verge of vomiting all the time when he was training and competing. I mean, like when you have a stomach bug or some other kind of sickness, if you are on the verge of vomiting, you cannot train. That's it. Like, you remember when he was saying that? He was like, yeah, I was basically so nauseous that I wanted to vomit 24/7. It's like, there's no way you can be the greatest no-gi grappler on the planet and be wanting to vomit 24/7. It's just not.
He does have a flair for the dramatic, and I do wonder how. I wouldn't say that he's embellished any of his health conditions. He may have exaggerated them somewhat. He definitely is known for his bombastic language in many different ways. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was making it sound like it's worse than it is. But whatever his health issues are, I mean, it's pretty obvious that he's not healthy, and he hasn't been for a while. I agree with you that I feel like, it's actually really smart for him to retire now, because he doesn't really have anything to gain. He does have a nearly spotless record. He only stands to lose credibility and respect from the grappling community should he, were he to lose to somebody in like the next ADCC or whatever. And honestly, I think that would break him, because, as you say, he is such a sort of a very controversial character in that people either love him or hate him. But even those who dislike him still respect his jiu-jitsu. But the moment that were that to crumble, that were he suddenly to become beatable, well, I think the amount of hate that would pour on and the amount of people that would feel emboldened to just suddenly attack him and say that he's trash might cause him to have an actual breakdown. As psychologically solid as he claims to be, I do think that would probably be pretty tough. I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like Gordon has a complicated legacy, because he does have incredible jiu-jitsu, and he did do some very special things. It's a shame that he can be such a trash human being. His lack of empathy, his controversial statements, whether it is, conspiracy theories or just, going outright so hard on politics, whether it is bullying, whether it is his so-called, or whether his speculated shady kind of like family background. I don't know. There's so many things there that were his veneer, let's say, of this champion grappler to crack. Then I just feel like that would all be fair game. And at the moment, I feel like his competition accomplishments are kind of protecting him a little bit from that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He's got too much to lose, basically. I mean, there's a sort of narrative that he likes to spin that he's basically single-handedly like raised pay thresholds for grapplers and stuff like that. But like many American politicians, he's kind of just throwing things out there that if you actually look at them are not true. They just sound good.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, do you remember Third Coast Grappling? Another sort of
I used to go to those. I went to many. It was just down the road from me when I was in the States. I used to drive to Houston almost every weekend at one point to go to their events. I mean, at one point they were making big noise. And I think, if I remember, they said, right, we've signed a 6-figure contract with Gordon Ryan. Right. Which, if you did the math, basically worked out like $100,000 a match over the next few years. Yeah.
And
he did one match.
Gordon, and then Gordon's like, that's it, thanks to me, guys, you're all getting paid now. It's like, mate, no, like no one's getting that. And even now, however many years later, that ain't happening. And I remember talking to his manager at the time, and he was like, well, we've just signed this contract. And I was like, well, let's see how many of those matches materialize. He was like, oh, you're such a hater. I was like, I'm not a hater. I just know what the landscape of jiu-jitsu is, and it's not this. And I think I put a bet on with him that it wouldn't materialize, and I won the bet. But I think I felt too bad to claim it. But yeah, he's definitely contributed to growth in some way, but maybe not in the way that he would have you believe. That's my opinion.
I definitely agree. That he did contribute to the growth. I think probably he drove a lot of the interest in no-gi over the last couple of years. I do feel that ADCC's boom from 2019 to 2024 was largely as a result of Gordon's participation, because he was just such an active, successful, and pretty marketable character. And he definitely was doing so much to promote no-gi. I mean, Craig wasn't even really on the radar at this point. Let's consider, Craig kind of like came through much later, and Gordon was the poster boy, right, for ADCC. And I do feel that going and selling out Thompson Mack Center and then doing a pretty decent job of filling seats in T-Mobile as well was because people
I'd say that was probably peak Gordon, that first big one in Vegas. I remember we were like elbowing each other and going, Gordon's on his best behavior, because he didn't say anything controversial. He looked like a Greek god, like it was peak Gordon, I think. And then he just manhandled Andre.
And
that
ran
was
through
good.
the heavyweight division as well.
Yeah. No, that was crazy. That was probably in my opinion, peak Gordon.
You're absolutely perfect label for it. Really was. That was peak Gordon. And I think that was him at his absolute him at his top. He's like, you don't get much better than that. And I just don't think that was really sustainable. But also I think that he's definitely lost a bit of interest in competing because, how long can you continue to do that? Does he just come back for like one super fight this year at ADCC in Poland? I just feel like it's not the same. I think his relationship with Mo, the money that he would make from something like that, he's not going to get paid the same, if Mo's not there to kind of supplement his salary, his purse. I just, he never wanted to fight Kynan, full stop, just had like a hard
Was it supposed to be Kynan?
It was supposed to be Kynan because,
I think
Gordon
you
was the
spotted
reigning
that
super fight
Kynan's-
champion and Kynan was the absolute division winner. Yeah.
And he's confirmed in the 99.
In his weight class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he ain't doing the super fight.
Historically, the absolute division winner would only come back and do the super fight. It was only ever Gordon who was able to double up doing that. So maybe they've decided to break that tradition, or maybe that was the sign that, that Gordon was definitely not going to come back. And I saw the sign and I definitely felt like, oh, he's not coming. And, then this announcement has just come out. But, definitely there's been a lot of other growth in Nogi over the last couple of years, of course, with CJI as well. And many other events around the world. But I feel like Gordon did a massive work in pushing that forward. And I do wonder how things will continue without him. Like, I wonder, because we don't have an equally marketable competitor in the game at the moment to really drive through that interest, Obviously, we have marketable people within Nogi, but they're not necessarily on the mats competing that everybody can get behind and be like, I will set my alarm clock to watch that guy when he steps on the mat kind of moment. So just not sure if we're going to have that.
Yeah. And then Craig loses his foil to kind of bounce off against. So who knows?
Yeah, Craig does need an enemy. Right? That really spurs him on. So we'll see. But speaking of Craig, wow. Speaking of foils, speaking of enemies, now I'm not sure this is an enemy, I'm exaggerating a bit here, but there was an announcement in this last week. Sometimes a little bit hard to really put our faith in these announcements because it's almost like that, wait, this is just too ridiculous to believe. But apparently for CJI 3, which is as yet unconfirmed, we don't have a date for it, but it supposedly will happen later this year. There has been the announcement that Craig Jones will face Dillon Danis in a no-gi super fight. So when I saw this, my initial reaction was, holy shit. Is this real? I don't know. But is it cool? I actually kind of think it is. I really do.
Yeah.
I know people either, again, well, actually, no, I would say that 99% of people seem to dislike Dillon Danis. But man, I'm into this match. I actually think it's great.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I really like Dillon Danis. I mean, he's been on Polaris many times. Met him. Each time he's been on. Spent some time with him in New York when we used to go there to film. He's a really, really nice guy. He just he just kind of got caught up in the Conor McGregor style promotion, but it's fine. Me personally, I still think there's an appetite to see him in jiu-jitsu. And maybe even MMA as well. He's pretty huge now. Did he box Jake Paul?
Yes, he did. He
did
the
crazy.
It was Logan actually.
Oh, Logan, yeah.
Yeah, but he did he kind of he was very active in the grappling world. Then you're right, he hooked up with McGregor, and had all that kind of crazy sort of got caught up in the whole rivalry with Khabib and the Dagestan crew. And then after Conor stopped fighting, he kind of transitioned into this whole influencer sort of status and got involved in the Misfits influencer boxing against Logan Paul. And then he had like some random MMA fight not too long ago on a Misfits event, which was, again, like kind of like one of those influencer events. But I just check in the stats here. Can you believe this? That Dillon has not had a submission grappling match since 2017.
Damn.
Almost 10 years. Was at ADCC. He lost to Gordon in the weight division, and then he came back for the absolute, and he won one and he lost one in the absolute. So actually his last match was against Muhammad Ali in the absolute division in the second round. He lost that one. So yeah, he hasn't fought no-gi jiu-jitsu in a very long time. He's actually, Dillon is a legit very good grappler. He did have a ton of knee surgeries. I'm not sure if you remember that. He was out for a long time with really bad injury.
That's true.
But man, Dillon is legit grappler. He is like actually seriously good. I still feel like, even though people really do seem to hate his character, man, Dillon plays the heel so well. And I think that this is actually a great match for CJI because you have good guy Craig against bad guy Dillon. Like, you need that heat going into a match, don't you?
Yeah. I feel like that might even change. That's my gut feeling. Dillon could end up being the good guy and Craig could be the heel. I don't know.
Well, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. Yeah. Let's see if Craig pulls like a Vince McMahon and he kind of comes out and he's like, "Now I'm the bad guy." And Dillon
I think
exits,
Craig's bored of being the good guy.
Yeah, I do feel like Craig has a bit of a chip on his shoulder just after everything that's gone on over the last couple of years. And, he definitely loves to make things spicy. So it would be kind of cool to see him lean into that bad guy role a little bit. And I'd love to see Dillon leave a hero, win or lose. That would be kind of, nice little redemption arc for him, let's say.
I mean, obviously Craig heel hooks him, but apart from that, it'll be exciting.
Hey, honestly, like Dillon's jiu-jitsu is really, really good. Like, I've only ever seen him,
very good.
Yeah, I've only ever seen him get leg locked once, and that was against Gary Tonon in 2015, like ADCC 2015. That is a very, very long time ago. Man, Dillon's jiu-jitsu is up there, but he just, his inactivity, who's he training with? Well, we know that he has been training for the last couple of years, or a long time now, actually, many years at Unity. And then he does his MMA training other places as well. So he has good guys to train with too. Could be interesting. I don't think it'll be the walkover. And Craig's been
no. What did Craig post the other day? It's important to get two or three sessions in a month or something.
Yeah, right. I think he'd have to actually train for this one. I really do. Like Dillon's.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Dillon's legit. So well. Stay tuned for CJI news. We don't have any confirmed details about the event, but I love that they're teasing the fact that there will be a CJI 3. And a lot of people thought that there wouldn't be one, but like I said, I spoke to Craig like just a couple of weeks after the last one, and I didn't think that there was going to be another one after CJI 2. And he's like, nope, money's there, funding's locked, like we're definitely going to do another one. Like the events of the last CJI actually hadn't put him off doing another one. I just think
as time passes, he can forget the negatives because he was stressed. Like,
it wasn't a pleasant experience for him for sure. But I definitely feel that you don't want to leave it like that either. You want to go out on a high. I think that coming back to do another CJI and tweak the format a little bit, and so people have a good the last thing you remember is always, the most powerful, right? So maybe do another CGI and everybody will love it again, and then he can peace out.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That'll be fun. And then speaking of crazy matches, this isn't really jiu-jitsu, but I was blown away. And another big announcement that came out this week was the Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano announcement. This just, man, I could not believe it when they announced this. I was like, is this real? And then they had the video of them facing off and stuff. I was like, whoa, this is totally unexpected. This is almost more unexpected than Craig versus Dillon.
Yeah, really unexpected announcement. I'm also finding it weird. I guess it's following the boxing blueprint of just like a headline. It's not like a promotion and all the bloat that comes with it. It's like, hey, you want to see these two fight? It's on it's on Netflix now. You know, it's like, I don't know, there's lots of, in a way, this is, in my opinion, kind of an analogy for a lot of things that are going on. Like, firstly, we seem to be running out of ideas, like across all kinds of creative endeavors. Like movies are just rehashes of old things. You know, the biggest selling sports events seem to be like friggin' Mike Tyson coming back and Ronda Rousey and Gina. Like, it's almost like you said, the characters are few and far between at the moment, and people are having to kind of lean on characters from another generation. And then also, like, I don't know if this is a bit of a stretch, but, you know, we used to buy albums and listen to the whole album from beginning to end. Like, I don't think anybody buys albums anymore. You just listen to one song that you like on Spotify, then you listen to another song that you like. I think this kind of follows that trend. It's just a match that they've made. There's no promotion attached to it. There's no card. It's just a match, you know?
Yeah.
I know, I like it, but in the back of my mind, somehow I'm like, where is this going? Where is this going? Netflix is just doing headline matches. Yeah, I don't know where it goes.
It is an interesting thing. I mean, this is also interesting because it's Netflix's first foray into promoting any kind of mixed martial arts competition.
It's MVP Promotions, which is the Paul brothers, right?
Correct. Yes. So, you know, they've been doing these boxing events on Netflix, and now they've decided to do this MMA one. I just feel like it's a natural progression. It's all combat sports at the end of the day. Their first MMA event. It's kind of curious, like you say. It's not building anything around a brand or a promotion. It's just one headline match, and they'll have some supporting fights. They'll have some supporting matches. You know, they'll obviously need an undercard, but it won't be anything worth writing home about. I've heard something about possibly like Diaz or Jorge Masvidal kind of like have been chirping at each other. So, you know, you never know. That might kind of appear on the undercard somewhere. But it's just random. Such a random fight. 12 years too late. You know, Gina is 43. She hasn't fought since 2009. Ronda is 39. She hasn't fought since 2016. So, you know, you've got two fighters who haven't fought in over a decade. And I'll watch, you know, because it's free on Netflix, but it's just so weird. I think in jiu-jitsu terms, I kind of think about how jiu-jitsu sometimes brings these guys out of retirement and does these like legends matches once in a while. And they're really hit or miss, right? Because I know that you've done some on like Polaris. I remember you brought back like Terere and Shaolin had an incredible match on Polaris once. That was fantastic. But then I've seen other events try to bring guys out of retirement, and it's just like, oh man, we don't need to see this. It's just
no. Yeah, some absolute stinkers. One thing I will say though is those two are mega stars. Like Gina was in The Mandalorian. So not only did, you know, she was legit like the biggest female MMA star at the time.
Yeah.
Mandalorian was huge, watched by millions. Then there was some controversy, some political controversy, wasn't there? Like she wouldn't put
she got fired from Disney.
Pronouns in her bio or something like that. But that, like, you know, she's even more famous because of that. And then Ronda Rousey, obviously, like, was briefly the face of the UFC and then went to WWE. So a lot of people will watch this for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
I'll watch it.
I wonder if there's any parallels there, though, with the jiu-jitsu industry about this idea of not necessarily needing to invest in a brand or a promotion and going more towards that boxing style promotion of just picking like one big marquee match and hanging everything on that, and then kind of, you know, just a little bit of an undercard to kind of like flesh it out. But do you think that's something that would work in jiu-jitsu, or is just like...
Yeah, I mean, we've had this conversation a few times, like not to give away the blueprint, but you need a marquee match that everyone online wants to see. And then the rest of the card can almost be whatever, you know, like the temptation is to build the best card that you possibly can, which, I mean, UFC...
Like from top to bottom, right?
From top to bottom, because we're just like fans of jiu-jitsu and we want good matches. And I have to say, UFC most times builds like really solid cards. There's almost never there's just like one good match and then a bunch of filler matches. solid matches, and the temptation is to do the same. But the boxing way of doing it is maybe a bit more manageable, because you can pretty much put all of your funds and attention into the headline. That will drive viewers, and then the kind of lower parts of the card might be ticket sellers from nearby, or like talent that you want to develop. I don't know. There isn't really a blueprint, but there are definitely at least two different ways to do it.
I wonder then if that's what we might see at the next CJI. If the Craig and Dillon match is just that one kind of marquee match, and everything's going to rest on that. And then, whether it will be a bracket, like a GP, or whether it will be a team event, or whether it'll just be some supporting super matches to kind of flesh out the card. I do wonder whether this next CJI might follow that model a little bit more, and just everything will rest on the Craig Dillon match. So,
I mean, a lot of the consideration is budget, and I imagine that Craig's doesn't quite have the same consideration. So he'll be tempted to just ram it top to bottom with stars, but yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. And then speaking about events, you've got the Polaris coming up pretty soon, which is going to be this is actually a pretty stacked card. So just to run through the details really quickly, you've got Ethan Crelinsten will be facing the winner of the Contender Series, which actually takes place a few days from now, after the time that we're filming this episode. So that's March 7th. Ethan will be in action defending his lightweight title. Is that correct?
Yes. 70 kilo title, I think.
70 kilo.
Terrible. My memory is terrible, but yeah.
And then we've got a couple of really solid, kind of high-profile super fights on there as well. You've got PJ Barch versus Shane Fishman, Owen Jones versus Gianni Grippo, Kendall Rousing versus Annabelle Lopez Beard, and then a pretty stacked undercard of lots of locals and top European and British and UK talent. So that's a return to the kind of the old school Polaris super fight card after over a year of nothing but squats. Right?
Yeah, super fight card. Like the Sunday we have contenders. There's 25. There's a lot. I think it's over 40 people signed up to. Basically, there'll be one winner, and that person, 70 kilo, I believe. That person will face Ethan, which I think is cool. Like we could have just plucked somebody from the rankings somewhere and just made a match, but we've made a little bit of a story there. There's people flying in from all over Europe, a couple of places further out, a lot of local London names. I just spotted, there's a guy from Norway there, Poland. Well, we've got Chris Lane-Deckers that Scramble sponsors, and he, I believe, won a match at ADCC at the weekend. That was his first ever trials. There's, I'm going to call him William Arneson from, sorry, I said Norway. He's from Iceland. He's from Mjolnir. And he won a couple, I think, at the weekend. Hugo from London Grapple. Thomas Kartus, I believe he's Swedish. Yeah, Amir from London Grapple. But yeah, it will definitely be a kind of underdog coming in.
So whoever emerges from this tournament, it's a good chance.
Yeah, Mateusz Kucha came third at the last trials, and he only lost to Tarza.
Ooh.
There's brown belt European champion Anthony Silva. Damiano Grillo won Nogi Grand Slam as a coloured belt. But yeah, so it'll be a lot of like really good people who are not that well known, which is kind of the entire point of that exercise. And it means that Ethan will be standing across from someone he's likely never heard of, who is pretty dangerous. So it should be exciting.
That's great. That's a great storyline. I think whoever emerges from this contenders, it seems like a very competitive bracket. They'll definitely have earned their shot. And this, I think, win or lose against Ethan, depending on how they do. Even winning the contenders is an accomplishment in itself. And then if they have a good performance against Ethan, even if they were to lose, it could help put them on the map, right? So I think that's really cool. So.
I think also the one other thing is like, if this person is able to beat all of those people and then in just a couple of weeks' time successfully main or co-main I think it's main event a Polaris without basically having some kind of nervous breakdown, then you possibly have a star on your hands anyway. Because there's a lot to be said for your debut being a title fight main card. Yeah,
huge. It's awesome. Really cool. Really cool. Really cool concept. I'm excited to see what comes out of this. So yeah, next Polaris, March 7th in London or Croydon, and that'll be cool. It'll be a good event. I'm excited just to see the old school super fight style as well.
Yeah, other matches are really good too. A load of people turned down Shane Fishman. I won't say who, but a lot of very big names were like, because he's extremely dangerous and unorthodox. But he's not like a solid name on the super fight circuit, if you know what I mean. Like people who know, if you lost to Shane Fishman, people would understand. But a lot of people might not be familiar with him, so they don't want to take that risk, But PJ Barch did. And then Owen Jones, always fun.
Yeah.
Gianni Grip, I feel like he's been competing forever.
He has. He's been a black belt for a very long time. He's been at the top of the grappling world for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
I love this match with Kendall and Annabelle as well, because Annabelle just came off a win at Trials. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Kendall is one of the best known competitors in the women's division, globally.
Yeah.
Huge star.
First match back for a long time.
Yes. Yeah, she hasn't competed since ADCC 2024. So
yeah,
huge. And Annabelle is got some really good momentum behind her at the moment. So a lot of good matches.
Yeah, and if I remember, Annabelle often has to cut quite a lot of weight, but she won't be for this one. So maybe she'll come in super energized and, comfortable.
Yeah, I think they're about the same weight, approximately. I know that Annabelle weighed in at ADCC Trials at about 85 kilos. So she's definitely on the upper end of the weight classes. She's a legit heavyweight in terms of women's jiu-jitsu. And, Kendall sometimes struggles to find matches against, girls her own size. So I think this will be competitive. And Annabelle,
be a good one.
Just her style, she's going to go after her as well. She'll meet her, head on in the center of the mat, which is always a good recipe for a good match, right? Yeah, that's cool. So we've got a couple of events that have taken place recently. Maybe you would like to recap. We've got Trials. We'll talk about that in a second, because there was one other big notable event that took place very recently, and that was UFC BJJ, their event. And a couple of notable matches on that one. Mikey Musumeci versus Shea Montague for the bantamweight title. Ronaldo Jr. versus Tarek Hopstock for the 170-pound title. Nicholas Meregali made a return. Andy Murasaki competed. Just overall, first of all, what did you think of the last UFC BJJ?
Yeah, I'm just struggling to get excited about it. I don't know. I don't know if it's because of like the position that I've got in, with being involved with my own event or, our own event. I don't know. It just lacks a spark for me. That's it basically. Yeah. I mean, but it has such a big name behind it. Those three letters, UFC. People are so excited to compete on it, which I understand. But yeah, I don't know, like it's kind of everything. Like the audience is small, the room is very brightly lit. Like there's a real lack of atmosphere. There's pretty not much production. Mikey just sort of being at the top of this pile is just a bit like, yeah, like Shea is amazing. We tried to get Shea matches a few times, but he's also very small, so it's difficult to find people good enough to fight him. I mean, probably Mikey was the best match to make for him. But yeah, I don't know. Like Mikey's great and everything, but it's not, I don't really buy into his appeal too much, just on a personal level. And yeah, I don't know. I struggle to get excited about it. How about you?
So, I kind of hear what you're saying. We've been pretty open about our sort of feelings on UFC BJJ, both the positives and the negatives. Quite critical about it in some ways and complimentary in others. I will be very, very honest that this last event didn't necessarily set my world on fire. It was solid. It was a good event, and I watched it and I enjoyed it. But I would have to say that even with two Europeans kind of taking on the reigning champions, Shea versus Mikey, and Tarek Hopstock versus Ronaldo. And just something to kind of to note here is that both these guys, Tarek and Shea, won the most recent IBJJF no-gi World Championships. And, I do feel that they certainly earned their shots at these title holders because they are some of the best guys in the world. They both lost. Shea lost by submission. Tarek lost via decision to Ronaldo in a match where nothing really major kind of happened in that match. But I do agree that even though the brand is so powerful and UFC BJJ just has this appeal, I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm gonna watch it. I'm just gonna keep my eye out and stuff. The biggest storyline for this entire event was the comeback of Meregali. His first match in a year and a half after his catastrophic injury at ADCC, when he put his shoulder out, and then he had a series of surgeries after that, and he came back to action after this extremely long layoff. And for me, the big thing was I want to see Meregali. He for me was the draw. He for me was the main attraction, even though he was like third from the top. And he went up against Nico Magličić. I hope I'm saying that correctly. The Australian, who also just won trials and then won no-gi World Championship as well, I believe. And Nico's really super legit. But I mean, like for me, it was the Meregali show. And I think that UFC did a really smart move by signing him. They signed him only a couple of weeks before this event actually took place as well. I think that the
officially,
officially, they've probably been talking for a long time, but the match was officially announced and the contract was signed only a couple of weeks, like I think 3 weeks or something before the event, which was, very, very late. But I feel like Meregali is that strong character that you need, and they need, good jiu-jitsu athletes with strong personalities that are marketable. And I feel like, Meregali could very well be like the face of their heavyweight division. And I don't think it'll be too long before they start setting him up for the heavyweight title to reign as the champion in UFC BJJ. So as intrigued as I was to see Mikey versus Shea, and as intrigued as I was to see Tarek versus Ronaldo, I'm like, no, for me, it was the Meregali show.
Yeah. I was just, while you were talking, I was thinking Mikey did call out, was it Arman?
Yes.
He's the guy that just won on ACB, is that right?
Yeah, Arman Tsarukyan. Yeah, he's been really active in grappling. Yeah.
That I would watch. That I would be excited for. Because that is like not one nerdy jiu-jitsu guy against another nerdy jiu-jitsu guy. It's like the ultimate jiu-jitsu nerd versus the ultimate like billionaire MMA Chad. Yeah. Who can fucking grapple. That I want to see.
Yeah, I do feel that was a really cool call out, actually. Mikey has basically cleared out his division. He's hit a little bit of an impasse where he has taken out all the kind of anybody who has any pretensions whatsoever of becoming the next big thing in his weight class. He's basically beaten them. There's only a handful of matches that haven't happened, like the one with Diego Hayes, Baby Shark. For whatever reason, that just is not going to happen. Complicated by the fact that Diogo also has a contract with one championship. So I just don't feel that we'll see that match take place. Was curious to see, 135-pound competitor and champion Mikey call out this lightweight UFC fighter who's probably walking around in like mid 80 kilos or high 80 kilos. He's going to be huge, Arman. But I love it. It's like the ultimate crossover match for sure.
I do wonder if he went off script there, because the chances of the UFC letting someone like Arman fight someone that is going to try to like shred every ligament in his knee is pretty small now that I think about it. Like when we were working more closely with the UFC, there was quite a lot of that. Sometimes we would make matches and then they'd go, oh, we'd love to help guys, but there ain't no way we're sending this guy out to get his leg shredded, Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Arman would do it. I don't think Arman would have any problem whatsoever in going against Mikey. He's probably thinking, line him up, I'll take him out, And Arman is world-class grappler, has fantastic submission grappling skills, has been really active in the sort of the jiu-jitsu scene over the last couple of, actually for like the last year or so. He's had matches on ADXC, ACB. He also did that match I think it was, is it Heat? It was like some random event in like Armenia or somewhere like that, Caucasus region. So he's taking high profile grappling matches and he's winning them and he's looking really, really good. But he also is like sort of top 2 or 3 ranked UFC lightweight fighter. And he's probably, not that far away from a shot at the title. So I do feel like UFC would want to protect that investment and, like you say, not risk it.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they had quite a lot of conversations leading up to those grappling matches and quite a thorough examination of his opponent. If it's a fellow Russian wrestler, fine, minimal risk. You're probably more at risk at training every day. But if it's someone like Mikey, like a little goblin that's going to try and rip your leg off, they might be a little more hesitant.
Yeah, but still, I would love to see that happen, and I would love to see more high-profile names from MMA kind of transition and compete in UFC BJJ against primarily jiu-jitsu guys. I think that would be really exciting because they've had a handful of guys come over with like a MMA pedigree, but as yet, no, I don't even think any like top 20 ranked UFC guys.
No, we did have that conversation before though. They seem to be hyper-focused on pure jiu-jitsu, which is why they chose those world champions, Shea and Tarek, to do those matches, which I respect. Yeah. The other thing I was going to say is, in the week leading up to the event, I was like, okay, I'm going to try and get excited about this now. I'm going to go and check their YouTube. I'm going to check Instagram and see what promotion they've done. They did nothing, nothing. Just a few posters.
Yeah.
And then the day before they had a few interviews with the guys. But I guess thinking about it now, like my disappointment with UFC BJJ is it's nothing like the UFC. Like they don't do any pre-event stuff. There's no pomp and ceremony at the event. I want like turn the lights off, put the flashing lights on, play the music loud. I want like Mikey, the Musumeci residence, at 6 a.m. he's putting his stuff on, he's going to training or whatever, like Meregali in Texas. I want to see that stuff. I want, if I was the UFC and I had this massive name, this massive media machine, all of this experience promoting the biggest combat sports event in the world, I would throw all of that at this new niche, not do what they're doing, which is like invite some guys, put them in the apex,
It definitely feels a very stripped down kind of product in that sense. I did notice though on the broadcast, because I pay attention to the structure of the broadcast as well as the actual matches itself, that one thing that they did well throughout the event was that they had vignettes and they had, short kind of clips inserted in between matches that were promoting the sort of the headliners. And, they went to Norway, they filmed Tarek training in Norway, and they played that. Yeah, they played that in between sort of some of the earlier matches on the undercard. And then they went to London and they filmed Shea training at Los Banditos, and they inserted that in between sort of, match 4 and 3 and 4. So, you had kind of storytelling throughout the event leading into sort of the title fights, building up these guys, helping introduce them to the audience. But I would have liked to have seen that, in the days and weeks prior and not just on the night of the event. Yeah. So,
I mean, it's possible I missed it, but I didn't, it was definitely not obvious,
No, it wasn't. It was quite subtle. Like it was only if you paid attention to the full broadcast all the way through that you would kind of really pick up on that stuff. But yeah, cool event. And there is one more match that I wanted to highlight on that one as well. Was Andy Murasaki going against Andy Varela.
Yeah.
It was a very satisfying match. Andy Varela came out, did his usual thing about being really chippy and kind of getting warned for slapping and kicking and stuff. And Andy Murasaki was like fully sort of laser focused on just playing the jiu-jitsu. And people have been super critical about Andy Varela. It's like, dude, if you want to slap people around, if you want to hit them, if you want to do all this shit, go do MMA. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I do agree. I think sometimes, Varela tests the boundaries of what is acceptable in a grappling match. But then when he lost via arm lock submission, everybody was like, hey, the good guy won. And that for me cemented the importance about having characters in these kind of matches. It helps so much to have a really clearly defined good guy and a really clearly defined bad guy. And Varela has no problem whatsoever in being the heel, being the bad guy, and that heat just bring it on. And man, I think he's probably on a losing record on UFC BJJ, but you know they're going to bring him back. You know, he'll just comfortably slide into that sort of gatekeeper, sort of journeyman kind of position. And it's like, you know, if you're good enough to go against Andy or beat him, you'll work your way up through the ranks and stuff. But you do need people like that on a promotion, right?
Yeah, 100%. We said it so many times. You need someone that you care about, either positively or negatively. Yeah, I like watching Andy. I mean, he is exciting, and he's got an attitude. So yeah, and Andy's very clean cut, very.
Which Andy? Murasaki.
Sorry, Murasaki. Yeah. Murasaki means purple in Japanese, by the way.
Really?
Yes.
Purple Andy. I did not know that.
Purple Andy.
Wow. Okay.
Purple Aki. No.
All right. Yeah. No, UFC BJJ was definitely cool. I enjoyed it for what it was, but yeah, it didn't set my world on fire. But hey, not every event can be a banger every single time, right?
Yeah.
So speaking of banging events, though, I do feel, even though there was a lot of criticism about the organization of the event, and there was a lot of complaints from those who were actually competing there in Serbia, just recently, the ADCC European Trials, man, I watched that, and as a spectator, for me, it was really, really cool. That was one of the best showcases of high-level European no-gi grappling that I've seen in a long time. So many high-level names competing, all fighting for that spot at ADCC World Championships later this year. It's the second European Trials, so those guys punched their tickets. Now that's it. Everybody's confirmed from the European scene to go through. It was a wild event. Now I know you were on vacation, but did you kind of keep an eye on it? Did you manage to see kind of what's going on?
Sadly, I must admit that I was checking my phone fairly often whilst in friggin' ski slopes in Poland. Yeah, like you said, it was just talent top to bottom. I mean, I think we mentioned it before, but ADCC's the appeal, it's almost, for competitors, it's almost like a masochistic just test of endurance. Like you could, like all of the Los Banditos guys, they're very funny, but they were complaining because they're not getting paid. They're fighting from morning until night. It's in friggin' Serbia. They've flown themselves over. They've spent thousands on this trip, but they still did it. And that's why holding an ADCC title is so important, because it's not just you are the best person on the day. You were the best person for like 10 hours in a row under the worst possible conditions just to get in your foot in the door. And then you were the best person on the day again that day for, it is so grueling and unpleasant that the end result seems to mean something, which is an interesting lesson for a promoter. I feel like maybe one year we'll go, look, none of you are getting paid, but at the end of the year, we're going to put all the money in a pot and you can win that. It'll be like $1 million or something. Yeah.
I feel like this European Trials was probably the most interesting European Trials I've seen. And the last one in Poland was good. I feel like this one was just felt extra special. I feel like the last chance to qualify for ADCC just put a lot more pressure on this one. There was so much to gain by winning this. The list of guys who came through, just to reel off the names of the trials winners. At 66, there was Yigit Hanay from Turkey. 77 kilos, there was the Russian Nikolai Vetrov. 88, Marlon Tajik from Sweden. 99, Owen O'Flanagan. Over 99, Haysam Rida. And then the women's divisions, under 55, Jeanette Gloger, the German. 55, Injana Goodman from the UK. And then over 65, she's dual nationality, Spanish and Dominican, but based in London, Annabelle Lopez Beard. So you had this really, really solid list of guys who made it through the trials. And I feel like all of those will be competitive at ADCC. This is actually like a stacked list of graduates from this trials, because we've seen it at some trials. Let's say, just using Asian trials for an example, some of these guys come through and they win trials, and it's not easy, just it's really tough to win trials. You're often looking at 5-6 matches to win trials. But some of the names are kind of, that guy's going out first round. He's punched his ticket and he's going, but it's almost like participation trophy. You know, he's one and done. So some of these guys who came out of this most recent European trials, they look really, really solid, and they could do some damage in those divisions.
Yeah. You get Hane, I remember seeing him at the one I went to in Croatia. I don't know, I can't remember if he won it or not, but yeah, it looks super dangerous. Marlon Tajic looked great. I think he beat Faris in the final. That was a bit controversial, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was some talk about that. I'll be honest, you know, love Faris, great guy. I feel like it was a really, really close match, but I don't necessarily agree that it was a robbery. I don't feel like it was, you know.
I didn't actually manage to watch that because I think it was a bit late.
I watched it closely because I was like, I really wanted to know if it was like a dubious decision or not. It could have gone either way. And I feel like the judges, you know, whichever way they'd gone, both sides would have complained that they'd deserved to win it. So I don't feel it was a robbery, but it was a great freaking match. It was really, really great.
Yeah. There was a few good matches in that division, actually. We sponsor a guy called Linus, and him and Faris were throwing down, and literally with like 3 seconds to go, Faris jumped on his back, and they gave him points.
Yeah, and literally 3 seconds to go, he managed to
kind of devastating.
Yeah, that was wild. You had a ton of scramble guys at this event, didn't you? I noticed. And
yeah, we do really well. Yeah, we're doing our kind of European no-gi team is really, really good now. Like really good, which I'm really excited about. Jeanette, like absolutely bossing that trials. That was amazing. She's really interesting. I think you said she's German, which is accurate, but she lives in Spain, trains with Santeri.
Right.
She's like trilingual. She can speak Russian, German, English. No, she speaks 4 languages, Spanish.
But really she also represents AOJ on the world scene when she competes. Like even the Mendez brothers gave her a shout out after she won. So
yeah, because she did a bunch of pre-event training. I think like pre-worlds, maybe pre-pans or something. And then I guess if you're there and you fit in well enough, and they think you might do well, then they'll sort of say, "Oh, you can, you know, put the AOJ label on." But she's definitely a product of Scramble Academy Spain, like Santeri's since she was a kid, I think.
Wow.
Owen and Flanagan was hilarious. You know, we put out a thing saying, "Oh, one to watch." You know, Owen. We put out like Polaris kind of veterans, and he was like, "Can everyone just stop tagging me? I'm trying to like low key win this like weight division that I'm not normally in. I don't want everyone talking about it." But
and he's all like, subs, subs as well.
Fucking amazing. He's like that's minus 99, yeah, and normally he's I guess 88, right?
He could do 77 if he really wanted to, but yes.
He's pretty shredded.
Yeah, he is.
In my opinion, he's strong enough, like physically strong enough to hang with heavier people,
right?
And just much more dangerous than the majority of 99 kilo guys with submissions. So I think he'll do. I think those 99 kilo guys won't be prepared for somebody smaller than them to be that strong and that dangerous. That's my opinion. I think he'll do really well.
I think Owen said that he weighed in mid-80s, so he was way undersized, even for 88. You know, the guy's cutting to 88. No, he was under 88, and he went up to over 90, to under 99. And just to explain, they did this because Taylor Perman was in at under 77, Faris was in at under 88, and then Owen went under 99. So they didn't end up fighting in the categories. But Owen, again, you speak about sort of heroic performances. I mean, he ran through the division, tapped everybody, and then that final match against, I think it was Ursov, the Russian, and this guy just stalled him out, was just running the entire time, refusing to do jiu-jitsu with Owen. And it was literally in the last 5 seconds that, you know, the guy finally kind of entered his guard after getting warned and got a penalty, and just Owen ripped his leg off, which is it was very satisfying to watch. And it was just that moment where you could hear the entire arena just went freaking bonkers. You know, that was amazing.
No, this feels like it's a golden age of European grappling at the moment, for sure.
I agree, man. I agree. I think that if this trials is anything to go by, the future of no-gi in Europe is very, very bright because, you know, obviously we're talking about the finalists and they all deserve their moment because, you know, they punched their ticket. And as you said, it was a grueling tournament. They all had to fight tooth and nail to get through to that position. But there were some amazing standout performances, you know, throughout. first one I want to highlight is the 16-year-old kid, blue belt from the Ukraine, Konstantin Zhivanov, who lost to Yigit in the finals. And this kid came out of nowhere and just ran through the 66 division. Just looked like a world-class black belt. And I was like, who's this kid? He looks pretty impressive. Checked him out on Smooth Comp. He's 16 years old. I'm like, no way. Now, interesting, because the last 66 kilogram division in Poland was won by Nico, right? The Polish kid who trains at Los Banditos, and he's 17. And everybody was going wild about the 17-year-old winning trials. And as we were getting down to the finals, I was like, holy shit, is a 16-year-old going to win the next one? Yeah. That would be crazy. So,
And also, he was saying on his Instagram, most of you guys can jump on a plane and you'll be in Serbia in 2 hours. Ukraine's airspace is completely shut down. They went on 3 days of bus journeys with like 11 transfers to get there. So it just shows unbelievable like heart and grit to turn up in that condition. Like I'm flipping complaining because I had to get a 2-hour cab from my like shitty Ryanair flight to my resort. And this guy's doing like three days of bus rides and then competing in the toughest tournament there is. Yeah, crazy.
Phenomenal. Another quick shout out, the under 77, Taylor Perman. He lost to Nikolai on a penalty point in the final, but he went all subs up until that point. Taylor previously won trials a couple of years ago, remember, with all subs. In the 88 kilogram division, I think it was. So this time went to 77 and was looking to do the same thing. It's kind of funny.
Very dangerous.
I was watching so Charles Allen Price, the strength and conditioning coach there, and works with all these Los Bandidos guys. He has a YouTube channel, and he did some interviews with the guys. I think they were kind of hanging out in like the airport to go home. He was chatting to all of them, Taylor, Owen, Faris, and Taylor was just like, yeah, man, I don't know the rules. Like, I let him grab my leg and then I sat to guard and I was like, oh, I got a penalty point for pulling guard. And I was like, I don't know the rules. I just go out and try to tap them. I was like, you maniac, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of rules, can we agree that ADCC rules are pretty much the least entertaining rules that it's possible to devise for grappling or not?
It's a strong statement. I'm not sure I totally agree with that one, but I will say that there is way too much room for interpretation in how these rules are implemented, especially with the activity calls, the penalties for inactivity or stalling, and then sometimes the decisions are a little bit sort of opaque as well, let's say. So I do wish that they were a little more codified and a little easier to understand. That is for sure. There's a lot of room for subjectivity in ADCC rules. There's a lot of room for interpretation, and they're not consistently applied by all judges and all referees. And I wish that was something that could be addressed. Yeah, I definitely have some criticisms about ADCC rules in that respect.
I mean, in my opinion, it firmly puts it it keeps it in the category of an amateur event, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, but it's not built for excitement. It's built to find out who's the best at this particular form of grappling. It's definitely not tailored to the audience at all, as evidenced by multiple matches just being 10-minute like stall fests, or 20-minute even.
Yeah, I mean, that can happen in any event, honestly. It can happen in IBJJF events where you have a 10-minute match and it's all down to like,
that's what I mean, but
or whatever. But I feel like it's a little easier to understand why things go the way they do in in IBJJF, whereas sometimes I'm often scratching my head as to, well, hang on a second, why weren't there points here? Or why was this decision one way or the other in ADCC? Is a little harder to understand for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we introduced a stalemate rule in Polaris, which is even if it's a dominant position or you're trying to do something, so you are active, if nothing is happening, you'll get stood up. So let's say you're trying to pass half guard, and the top player is really active. So under any other organization, there's activity.
They'll let them work.
Let them work. If nothing happens, you'll get stood up because it's a spectator sport, what we're doing. So, yeah.
I've got to say, though, you don't often see that applied in Polaris.
Since swapping to the, squads, no one stalls, and 3 5-minute rounds, not much stalling going on. Right. So I think with all of those things together, we don't really get any boring matches now.
Well, that's good. That's really good. But it's good to have, though, in case that they do sort of end up in those stalemate positions. That's really, really good. Just going through a couple more standouts from the ADCC trials. Christian Amador, 66.
Really good.
Looked really, really good. He's a scramble athlete, right? 66 kilo from Spain.
No, I'd like him to be, but he is a Scramble Academy Spain athlete under Santeri. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
He's very Scramble adjacent.
Yeah, he looked great. I think he got through to final 4, or at least maybe final 8, I think. Looked really, really sharp. Shout out to Christian Osbeck for making it into the final 4 of the over 99 kilogram. He's probably walking around like low to mid 80s. You know, Christian is way undersized, and he did great getting through to the final 4. Just, again, heroic. And then when you saw him against like Hyson Reader and the height differences like this, or when you saw him in the 3rd place match against Anton Dimitrikov, again, like Anton's probably 120 kilos, and it's like got a head height on Christian Osbeck. That was crazy, pretty wild to see. So shout out to Osbeck for making it through the final 4.
No, he's fun.
And then again, a shout out to Anton Dimitrikov, actually, the guy who took bronze at over 99. He's Russian ethnicity, but he's actually from Kazakhstan. I'm familiar with Anton very much so because he was very active on AIGA, is always representing the Kazakh teams there when they compete at AIGA. And he's a really, really good heavyweight. I think he has a lot of potential. He competes both gi and no gi. He's getting a lot better. We never saw the best of him at AIGA because he nearly always had to go up against Abdullayev, that just absolutely monstrous Dagestani guy who has beaten Kainan and beaten Luke Griffith and just ran through everybody. Yeah. So we never saw the best of Anton, but I was glad that we got to see some of his skills at ADCC Trials. He did pretty good there. So yeah, Trials was fun. I gotta say, I did enjoy it. And I know there were a lot of complaints about the organization, about the behind the scenes stuff. Darragh O'Connell, if you follow him on Instagram, man, he was very, very vocal about the sort of the problems with the medical checks, with the requiring coaching passes, just so many different sort of complaints about the behind the scenes that we didn't get to see. You only would have seen if you were at the event. But I will admit, as a spectator, I thought the event looked great. I thought that it was a solid spectator experience for people who are watching from home. The arena looked solid. The production was pretty good. I know there were some delays with like sort of the sound didn't quite match the video. There was like a 25-second delay or something on that.
I thought that was just me.
No, that was across the board. So there were a lot of complaints about the technical side of things there, but whatever. It happens. It's one of those things. But it was a solid event. I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely worth addressing that. I mean, it almost feeds into the whole masochistic thing, like, oh, remember when I won trials and we nearly fucking died doing the medicals or whatever, or my coach couldn't get in, like, that should be improved, I reckon.
One little complaint, though, that I did have about it was that I heard that they were charging $100 per media pass, which I have never, ever heard of before at any other event. I think that it may have happened at the previous ADCC trials in Poland as well. And for me, as somebody who has worked for many years in the media and reporting and covering jiu-jitsu, I feel like you need a fairly decent application process to weed out sort of the real media from the guys who just want to turn up and film their mates with a camera or whatever. So you don't have dozens and dozens of cameramen there at mat side clogging the space up. But I really feel like it is totally unacceptable to charge members of the media entrance to an event $100 to go and promote your event for you on within the jiu-jitsu space. That for me was really kind of, I didn't like that, I gotta say.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I think about this a lot because we get loads of applications on Polaris. Like, a media pass traditionally meant that you were representing some form of media, whether it was a website or a magazine, and you were taking photos. let's go like established sports, I don't know, Premier League. You're not just getting like, the media that is there are selling their photos to large organizations that are reporting on the match that happened. So you can argue that the Premier League is benefiting from those people being there, because then they're being talked about by organizations that are also very large, like newspapers, magazines, websites. We're in a weird situation with jiu-jitsu where there's like there's an army of amateur photographers that want to go to every event. And, I'm friends with a lot of them. I really like them, and they're excellent photographers. But some of them are just going there, and they might have like 500 followers, and then they'll be selling the photos that they've taken there. So I don't understand, like, why is it such an outrage to have to pay? Because it costs money to put on an event, in some cases hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars to put an event on. You just want to come along, take some photos, and then sell them.
Yeah, profit.
You're not actually, and profit from it. You're not actually contributing to the event, because the event might have an order of magnitude more of social following than you do. So the argument that you're contributing to them is non-existent. So you're basically there for the experience and to try to make money. So I don't actually see the outrage in asking you to pay. What do you think?
Agreed. I agree on that respect, for sure. There's a difference between media representatives and professional, semi-professional content creators who are going there to make money, for sure. So, I'll use the example of somebody like Boro Jiu-Jitsu, Boro, Dominic, right? Everybody knows Boro is like the sort of like the guy who covers the events for grapple culture and flow grappling. If there is an event in Europe and he's there, he is working for an outlet, let's say, and he's often there representing flow grappling. He had to pay to enter to become a media representative at the ADCC Trials, which is wild because flow grappling is an official partner of ADCC, not just individual trials, but globally, he was required to pay. Now, compare that to somebody who, let's say, for example, is just like an in-house videographer, photographer for a team who's just going to film his athletes or something. Yeah, I think that guy should deserve to pay. Or somebody who's going to go there and they have a bunch of clients competing across the weekend and they're going to go take photos of this guy or of that guy. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that guy, should pay to enter because he's going there in a professional capacity, but alone. He's not representing an agency or an outlet. But then I guess the problem is that there aren't really any outlets, are there?
That's the thing. I think it's a case of we've just like moved into a new era of content production without really discussing what the structure of it looks like. I mean, Boro, for example, Scramble employed Boro and we paid him. So he could have paid that $100 and been fine, So,
but not everybody would be in that same position, So
no, I don't know.
It's a tricky situation. I'll leave it. I'll put it that way.
I quite like the debate actually because I don't know what the correct sort of outcome is, but
my personal feeling is that there should be vetting for any media applications, and I do feel like there's almost like a sort of a two-tier. Whereas that if you are representing a third-party agency or media outlet that is established, then you should be given access. Whereas if you are going there in a personal capacity to make money and to profit off that work, then I do feel like there should be maybe sort of like a fee to pay for that access. So
and then to keep things fair, there should be a third option where you are employed by the event to produce media, which is what we do.
Usually these events have them, but I noticed that this one didn't, because ADCC in Brazil or ADCC in North America, they do have their own in-house media teams who will go and produce content. So they'll be making clips of all the stuff happening, they'll be taking photos, they'll be publishing results. Didn't see that on ADCC Europe. So
I mean, we have like our core team, and then if we need extra stuff, we'll hire one or two extra people. And that's it. At that point, we don't need anyone else there, really. The people that are there are basically there for themselves, and the show doesn't really need that, So
yeah, great point. Great point. I did notice actually of the media in attendance at the recent UFC BJJ. They had a couple of guys, Matt side, taking photos, and I recognized them immediately. These are established photographers who I used to see at IBJJF or ADCC events in North America. BJJ Korea was there as well. But something curious that I've learned sort of over the last couple of years is that some of these, let's call them the independent agencies, media outlets, let's say guys like BJJ Korea or Vita Freitas Comunica, these guys will actually charge the events as basically they will provide a service. It's like, well, I will cover your event, but you have to pay me to go. And I'm like, well, are you really media? No, you're a sort of a content creation
a PR,
agency.
like a spokesperson.
Yeah, you're a communications agency for hire in that respect then. So, there is no truly independent media then, because those guys, they can't afford to be critical of the event in any way because they know that's their client. And there are no established independent media because Flow Grappling is a media partner of ADCC. They can't be critical. So it's, I just wish that there were some truly independent media outlets or agencies in jiu-jitsu in general. But how would you even create something like that to operate? Practically impossible.
It's just the landscape has changed so much. It just doesn't, BJJ Style magazine comes to mind. Like if that was still going and people were still buying magazines,
right,
they could come and they would legitimately report on it, write a post-event report. Maybe you'd collaborate before the event for some content. But we've had a number of people in the same vein contact us and be like, oh, hey, do you want me to talk about your event on my podcast or this? And we're like, yeah, cool. And they're like, yeah, it'll be this much money. And you're like, oh, so you're not actually a reporter. You're just like you said, someone for hire, basically.
Yeah. It's a tricky one. I'd love to see some independent media, but the prospect of creating something like that and having to try and monetize it is very challenging, for sure. So I understand why these people are doing this, but I don't know. I just it's tricky. It's tricky if you don't have the business model to support something like that. I don't feel that pushing the costs onto the events as a client is the best way to go. So I guess we'll never have truly independent media in jiu-jitsu if that's the case.
It's done.
It is done. I feel like there's some good bonus content that we could offer for our Patreon subscribers because you've just been so active with Scramble over the last couple of weeks. And it just really got me thinking, you've had some really cool drops. You've had some really good collaborations with other brands as well. I'm thinking like the Through Duck stuff that came out not too long ago. And then, you had some big drops come through in the last couple of weeks as well. And I kind of think it would be really cool to pull back the curtain a little bit on Scramble.
To get the rest of this episode, head over to our Patreon. I spend the next 20 or 30 minutes or so talking about Scramble and drop some incredibly niche knowledge about Japanese jiu-jitsu brands. So head over to Patreon and sign up.